Welcome back, Fantasy Moto fans. I'm Donnie, you're watching RotoX, and this is the San Diego episode of Fantasy Feedback. It was Military Appreciation Night, where Coop gets his groove back, more booze for Ferrandis, and 8 people picked Michael Mosiman for the FFL, and somehow they were right. This week, the amount of people who set their lineup stayed pretty steady. This is the first week without any major fluctuation in players, with 5,777 paid players setting their lineup, with 630 people who paid their $20 failing to do so. This week had the highest success rate of scoring 26 or more, with 36 of the 44 riders in the main event doing so. The 250 class was especially forgiving, with only 2 riders failing to produce 26. The median score in San Diego was 209, meaning that if you scored at least 210 points, you were doing better than half of the championship league. No one managed to nail that perfect team, which would have scored you 284, and if you somehow would have managed to pick Mosiman and AC for the FFL, you would have taken home a massive 314 points in San Diego. The perfect team would have consisted of just about any All-Star, Michael Mosiman, Cheyenne Harmon, and 16 handicap Bryson Gardner making his very first main. Blake Baggett, Benny Bloss, and Jason Clermont and his Kawasaki that for some reason has a yellow fender round out the rest of the perfect team from San Diego. However, most of you probably had a team that looked more like this, another testament to stop trying to be cute. If you would have just picked the obvious team, you would have ended up with 234 points, not counting the FFL, 36 points more than the average score and just outside of the top 1,000. The preview video before San Diego's qualifying details, I had my team like this, which would have scored 219, 212 since I took Faulkner for the FFL, and obviously he did not get it. Unfortunately, Vince Friese did have his worst finish of the year, missing double points by just 1 spot. That cost us 14. However, after learning that Oldenburg and Lieb would both miss the race, I swapped Alex Martin for Jacob Hayes, which snagged me in 8 additional points, and I dropped Alberson for Howell, who qualified 17th, but unfortunately finished 20th for 32 points, the same as Alberson. After qualifying 15th, I swapped Friese out for Bloss and his 11 handicap, and this move made my week as Benny outscored Vince by 22 points. I kept my FFLs the same as the preview, losing 7 points for Faulkner, finishing with 242 points for 771st overall in the weekend. Now, this is the part that I always hate. San Diego had the season high for misses. You guys really need to stop reaching so far, with over 30% of picks missing the night show. Most of this came from Michael Lieb, who didn't announce he was out for the main until about an hour before gates dropped. On one hand, I want to give you guys the benefit of the doubt since it was so close to lockout, but also I posted about it on both Instagram and Twitter as soon as the news dropped. Steve Mathis had already mentioned that his shoulder looked hurt and his qualifying time was not very good to begin with. I'm also still trying to figure out why Christian Craig and Bogle are on here, and honestly, I just can't waste any more energy trying to figure it out. Oh, heartbreaker for these guys. Robbie Wageman and Adam Entignat both looked poised to make the main before making mistakes late in the LCQ that sealed their fate. Almost 60% of picks made this week missed the main. It seemed like a lot of people were really reaching for those higher handicap guys now that the injuries are starting to mount and make room in that 250 main. Let's take a look at the scatter chart. Benny Bloss had the highest pick trend at 45.4% and paid off with 34. Baggett and Gardner both scored 42, and their pick trend couldn't be more further apart. Props to those literally 12 people that picked Bryson Gardner this weekend. Faulkner and Webb were the most picked All-Stars, no surprises there, and McAdoo broke the most hearts with an honorable mention to the over 2,000 people that picked Michael Lieb at lockout. One interesting stat that I just want to share is how many All-Stars have been on each team each week. To start the year, the average team was picking between 3 or even 4 All-Stars, relying on that consistency rather than trying to capitalize on double points guys. But this is the first week we averaged less than 3 All-Stars per team at 2.91. I look to see this number to continue falling each week as players try to make up ground in the standings. A new face at the top of the RotoX board, MX Small 2708 led the week with 259 points. Enamel still has a command of the league this season, gapping Stacy 126 by 39 points. As we look ahead to Tampa, Blake Baggett is now an all-star in the 450 class, with Brayton falling out of the top 8 and is now eligible for double points. Michael Mosiman's 4th place finish this week, coupled with Oldenburg's injury, swaps their all-star status. But as we move on to Tampa, we won't be seeing Mike or Mitch until Seattle at the end of March. I have no idea who is going to be the all-stars in Tampa, but I expect to see Sexton, McElrath, Hampshire, Marchbanks, Dakotas, Jordan Smith, Jeremy Martin, and until we know the status on Colt Nichols, he's not entered for Tampa, but McElrath is. I would probably give that 8th spot to one of the factory rookies. As we anxiously await Wednesday for the handicaps to drop, remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram so that you don't miss out on any of the latest injury news and qualifying updates. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. With 1/3 of this season behind us, comment and let me know how you're doing. I'm currently sitting in 806th place in the Championship League, 116th in Industry Idiots, and 27th in our RotoX League, 140 points behind Enamel. As some sort of bright spot, the other guys that do the PulpMX Fantasy podcast, I am actually beating all of them but JT, and I'm only a few points behind, so at least I feel credible. Look for our Tampa Fantasy Preview video Friday morning. Since we have an entire batch of new riders coming in and a lot of rookies, I know you guys will be looking for some hot insight since we don't have any recent relevant results to go off of. So make sure to check out that video before you make your picks on Tampa. As always, we will also have the fantasy qualifying cheat sheet going up Saturday before the gate drops. We are moving East Coast, so the race will be 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 Pacific, so make sure your schedules align accordingly. As always, thank you for watching RotoX Fantasy. My name is Donnie, and I will see you guys this weekend.